So my grandfather started our company in 1955. And so my dad joined the company in 73 and retired in 2016. I joined the company upon graduating from college in 1998. As a family, we decided to sell the business in November of 2021. My dad was very active on the NAW board and in the creation of the NAW Draft Foundation. And so he met really the Bolio brothers through the NAW ITR partnership. And so I was privileged to be part of that journey. So I was the third generation owner operator of our family. It's a great business, great industry, great story. And ITR has been instrumental in our success. For us, it was there was a couple of decisions that went into it. There was a strategic initiative for the company that bought us, SBP, Specialty Building Products. They needed a presence in Texas, wanted a presence in Texas. We highly respected each other, were peers, knew each other. They visited us, we visited them. We talked best practices, talked shop, but also talked to people that they had bought, right? And what was it like 3 or 4 or 5 years later? And so, really, as I look back, and as I said then to our team, it was really 1 + 1 = 3 with what we had created, with what SBP brought to the table, and further augmented our position in the marketplace, whether it's product lines, key customer relationships, additional financial backing for expansion of facilities and new geography. I mean, and that's what it's played out as. We've really laid a solid foundation to start capitalizing on, I say foundation in 22, 23, 24, that then we're going to catapult and have some significant growth in 25, 6, 7, 8 and beyond. Yeah, so my dad and I were both at the NAW conference January of 2008. We heard Alan Bolio share then that there was a major recession coming. Everybody couldn't understand it in the room because business was booming, things were great, we were making good money, revenues were growing. But Alan just said there's something coming, and if you read the headlines, you're not going to see it or hear it. But if you look at your underlying business, so we came back, made some decisions after that talk, tightened up our accounts receivables, sold some real estate, got our accounts receivable, which are already in great shape, in even better shape, started reducing our inventories. By the time the downturn hit Texas in, I think it was third quarter in 2008, we were fully prepared. We just gained momentum. Through that period of time, our business dropped 35%, but we stayed in the black, and we exited like a rocket ship on the because we kept working on these strategic initiatives. And so Brian and Alan have become good friends, right? I've seen them in the airports. We've had dinners, we've had visits. We've hired them to come speak to our customers at our events. They met with Dad and I on various occasions. I've referred dozens of people to them whenever I decided to sell the business. They were two of the first gentlemen that I sent a note to and just said, thank you for helping us build an incredible business. And so a lot of respect and friendship with those guys. I have to give the credit to my dad. My dad was a steward of the ITR process and methodology. He was just brilliant when it came to looking at the ITR reports, looking at the indicators. We set up rate of change charts with NDW and all of that. And then we were fortunate to have a president that we hired in 2008 who really was a part of the journey from the very beginning, who embraced it as well, understood it, and really led with it. And it became something that we overlaid in our strategy. For the 20 years I was involved in the business, 25 years in the business, NAW was always the top upper echelon annual event. And we made a commitment to come in, investing the time and energy and money to be able to come. What came with that was top tier talent and top tier content and top tier speakers. And so I think whenever we heard Alan that first time, we did understand, if you understand the methodology of something, and you come back and you set up your rate of change charts and you're calculating all that stuff and you can see it, you read the book, Make Your Move, you did all those things, pretty hard to argue with the fundamentals of it. And so if he's right, what could this mean? And if he's wrong, what could this mean? Right. And so we just jumped on the bandwagon, as I said, kind of tightened up our ship. It served us very well. We believe in it so much that we bought the Make Your Move books by cases or hundreds, and we would give them to our customers. If they wanted to understand ITR, we did some consulting, with our customers and educating them on rate of change, and we'd give them copies of the book and they'd read it. People still come up to us today and thank us for that, and ask for the ITR updates. I mean, there were other economists and companies that we heard and listened to and whatnot, but nobody had the methodology and, more important, the accuracy. Whenever we heard an economist start the presentation talking about their accuracy, I mean, that's a lot of people can make projections, but we'd never heard an economist talk about their accuracy from the prior year. And I think that speaks volumes. And we continued to listen and monitor those other things. But then over time, it became pretty clear to us that ITR was the superior method. And of course, our results kind of spoke for themselves. I think it took us 60 days or so to get our data created. We uploaded a bunch of data to ITR. They helped us build a worksheet. We then, they taught us how to fish, right? We kept updating our own worksheets. They would quality check it, do all that. And then we had the quarterly calls and whatnot in the beginning to really understand the fundamentals. And then we were off to the races. We relied on ITR to get our infrastructure set up, the leading and lagging indicators and how many months and all of that. But then, we're kind of independent people being from Texas. And so we just said, hey, we don't want to rely on anybody else to do this for us. So teach us how to do it. And then we're still doing it. I looked at the rate of change report today, right? We're still tracking it some 17, 18 years later. And SBP, who bought DW, is an ITR customer as well. So for us, it was Dad and I in the beginning, president and CEO. And then his dad stepped up to chairman, and our president and I got more and more active. So it's really the top two people within the company. Now there were calls later in the progression where we started involving the leadership team and whatnot, but we found it to be more effective for us to share the reports, get the questions from the leadership team, and then just have a smaller dialogue. But we would always brief our leadership team on the outcome of those and the data and the indicators and the content from the conversation. We had a lot of metrics. We continue to refine those down. The one that I can remember that was most important that we tied to ITR was we always wanted to outperform the market. So if the market was up 10%, we wanted to be up +5, right? If the market was down 20%, we wanted to be down 15, right? So we always wanted to outperform the market. ITR helped us do that. And so as I said earlier, we overlaid it with our strategy. So whether it's real estate expansion decisions, vendor expansion, customers, hiring new salespeople, hiring leadership teams, expanding, infrastructure. I mean, obviously we overlaid that. And so, I'd say that and the bottom line were the two driving factors in terms of how we would correlate our success with ITR. Certainly the 2030 forecast. I mean, you got to remember, they've been talking about 2030 since 5 years after we met them, right? So a long time. I think for me, what ultimately caused us to sell when we did, because we did not need to sell. We were having incredible success. I was still, fairly young, was realizing that when we wanted to sell, there may not be the strategic buyer where there's going to be the desired outcome that we want. So it's a combination of when do we want to sell, which that wasn't on our minds. When do we want to sell, and where's the ideal buyer? And I felt like if I waited, there would be a high likelihood that the ideal buyer would not be there, and it just would not fulfill all the things that were the fundamentals to us in doing a transaction. So nobody saw it coming. and nobody knew when it was going to be over. So we kept obviously using the ITR data and reports and all that. We actually did very well through COVID. Being in the building supply, everybody was kept home, and so they started to improve their houses. We had a massive inventory. We had a resilient supply chain. So we had tons of inventory from around the globe, and we sold a ton of material, took a ton of market share. And so certainly, ITR was a part of that. They were instrumental. If you look at that, that roughly 20-year period, they were instrumental in our success. Before we expanded into a new customer base or a new product line or new categories or new segments, we would overlay that with the ITR report, right? And if we're in phase B or C, we're not pulling the decision on a multi-million-dollar CapEx or expansion or personnel scale up, and that's not the time to be hiring salespeople, right? Training initiatives and all of that. So we followed the ABCD business cycle methodology, and we made large, bold, big, significant investments at the right time. That really helped propel us to achieve the results that were so extraordinary. Number one, I would make the investment of time, energy, and resources to really understand the methodology. Your business is too important. Your enterprise is too important. It's probably your most significant asset you own as a business, company, family, individual. Take the time and invest the time to really understand the ITR methodology. What is rate of change? What are the leading indicators? What are the lagging indicators? Number one. Number two, be willing to pay. ITR had some price increases, right, when we were doing it. Be willing to pay the premium. We always said we got multiples of the cost of the fee, for the reports and the engagement and all of that along the way. And then the third thing is, don't be the only one that understands the methodology. Transfer the methodology and the understanding to your leadership team. They're the ones that are going to really carry it, promote it, talk about it internally. We didn't talk about it a lot with customers until we really understood it and had confidence in it and could recommend it. But I would just say, at a high level, I'd say invest the time, energy, resources to understand the methodology, build your own systems internally so you can track your rate of change, and then make it an ongoing. There was incremental improvement every year that we stayed with it, and we're still doing what we did that led us to become, a best-in-class operator. So there's probably three things. ITR would be one of the three that will drive the value, enterprise value for a company. ITR would be one of the top three for us.